Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday, September the 17th. Thanks for dropping by, saying hi. You are looking for progress from Cam Ward. If you're a Titans fan, you are looking for clear and obvious signs of growth from Cam Ward. If you're a Titans fan, you're looking for probably any excuse humanly possible to think that you've got hope about what this player can be for a franchise that has been godforsaken at the most important position. We are going to provide you at least some context for where that growth and that progress might be taking shape. Cam Ward spoke to the media today. You're going to hear from him and Brian Callahan, the embattled Titans head coach. In fact, Robert, I didn't think to ask you to pull this, but we probably at some point, I don't know that it's necessary tonight. Jason Fitz talking about why it's okay to fire Brian Callahan ASAP under correct circumstances or under certain circumstances. But there is a conversation to be had about it, and this is part of the dialogue, right? Is Brian Callahan the right person to guide Cam Ward into his NFL future? And that's the answer that we're all looking for at this point in time. We probably won't ever have a complete answer on that, given the amount of outrage that seems to happen with each passing week. And I know, because I'm a part of the outrage. I'm tired of them losing. I think it's pathetic. I think they're miserable. And I think that the coach is having a really, really hard time making them not miserable. But if he is the best person to make sure that Cam Ward is in a position to succeed, then that supersedes all of the other shit that's going wrong with this franchise as of late. So you're going to hear from both of those people on exactly that subject, how he's making progress within the offense and how that growth at least should be evident to us as we move forward week over week. We'll do a little rising and falling at the end of the show, as is the custom, and we will look forward to doing those things together. Share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch if you are inclined. We do appreciate your participation. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. YouTube or Twitch, like the video. See a lot of YouTubers here tonight. More of you guys will trickle on in, whether it's Jeffrey Mullins, Simpson, CCP, is that right? Lincoln Hawk. All of you, like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're there. Text it to one friend. Text it to one Titans fan friend, and you will have done your duty for the night. You can sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about the quarterback and the progress that he is or should be making. Welcome in A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday evening. I'm your host, Buck Rising. Hello, lovely to have you. And I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by SimonsSaysNashville.com. Shop in-store only, but check out all of their great wares online, conveniently located in Wedgwood, Houston. You need to dress better. Simon Says Nashville is there to help you. SimonsSaysNashville.com. TrueMav Fitness is where you go for your first workout free. In the Gulch, Middle Tennessee residents get their first workout free, courtesy of TrueMav Fitness. And Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, where they are currently doing a canned food drive, what's not just canned food, but what's the proper term, Robert? I'm blanking. Non-perishable goods drive at Two Rivers Ford. If you want to participate, I'll give you more information on how you can do that and help the less fortunate as the holiday season creeps closer and closer. TwoRiversFord.com for the South's most trusted Ford dealer. All right, so the only thing that matters really in 2025 for the Tennessee Titans is Cam Ward. Not making the playoffs. Not whether Brian Callahan makes it or doesn't. Not the progress of Arden Key as a pass rusher, right? Like not all these ancillary things that will not matter into the future. 2025 is not about anybody, but Cam Ward and the other rookies on the roster. But first and foremost, it's about Cam. You have a quarterback. You drafted him number 1 overall. Everything has to be done in service of supporting that player's success to make sure that he is hedging his bets or that you are hedging your bets against failure and that you are putting him in as many different positions to succeed as humanly possible. Everything is about Cam Ward. Benjamin Buck points out, well, is Dan Moore good enough to protect him? Can't develop getting sacked. that much. Yes, Cam Ward leads the league in sacks taken. He has taken more sacks through 2 games than Will Levis did last year. Some of those sacks are on Cam. Some of those sacks are on the offensive line. The offensive line is arguably as disappointing as anything to start the season. It's between the penalties, the offensive line. The penalties are probably most disappointing between those two things, but the offensive line is as important as Cam Ward because it is about Cam Ward. Again, everything that can be done to support Cam Ward must be done. And if you are not supporting Cam Ward, you have to get out. That's what it is. So with all of the things that are not succeeding, Cam Ward is succeeding at a reasonably high level. He is a player that has not been great through his first 2 games. I think the internet was trying to gaslight you, I think. And with all due respect to Dan Orlovsky or Chase Daniel or Ben Kurt, all the others, quarterbacks who are out here breaking down tape on social media, obviously they have a deeper understanding of what Cam Ward is being asked to do or what Cam Ward is doing than any of us who have not played the position at the highest level. Of course, I defer to their expertise. But Dan Orlovsky in particular came out after Cam Ward's first game, said he had 8 drops, which wasn't a thing. He had 3, and said that he was outstanding. Cam hasn't been outstanding yet. Cam makes a couple of wow plays. He's been solid with a little bit of special sprinkled in, which is fine. That's good considering the circumstances, as Darren says. He's been okay, which is good considering the circumstances. I agree with that assessment. We don't need to do hyperbole. I know that's funny coming from me because many of you think that I'm hyperbolic every day, and I probably do have a little bit of hyperbole to my game every day, but that's what it is. You can be reasonable about what this quarterback is doing without going to an extreme. To say that he's been outstanding is extreme. He has made, I would say, 3 wow plays in 2 games, and he has missed opportunities. He has made mistakes. He has taken sacks. He looks like a rookie, and that's okay. He also shows you why he's the number 1 overall pick, and that's all well and good. Jonathan Caverly says there were 7 drops his first game. No, there weren't. There were 3. Do not do this. Do not make this a thing that it's not. Calvin Ridley 2, Alec Iamaner 1. The rest were not drops. The receivers or the tight ends on the receiving end of some of those Cam Ward passes would not say that they were drops in an honest moment. The coaching staff would not say that they were drops in an honest moment. If a ball hits you on the tip of your fingertips as you're reaching out for it, that's not a drop. It's a bullet that Cam Ward is launching at your head, and if you can't make a play on it, well, Cam Ward probably has to put a little more touch on the ball. Guys, he can be fine with still having some obvious areas of growth that he has to accomplish. EJ says he has the weakest wide receiver core in the league. Stop it, bro. You're hating. LOL. I don't care how good or bad his wide receivers are. He didn't have 8 or 7 drops in the first game. He had 3. Don't make this a bigger deal than it actually is. They can suck around him and him still not be great yet. It's not an indictment of Cam. It just means that you don't have to get ahead of yourself. Like, that's all I'm saying. The need to veer to extremes, the overcorrections, one way or the other, he can be fine without him being outstanding. He can make mistakes without him being a bust. Both things can be true. Don't be ridiculous about the conversation. Cam Ward has been solid. That's what it is. EJ says if it touched your hands, it's a drop. Every NFL coaching staff would tell you that is foolish. So if you want to argue that you know more than 32 NFL coaching staffs, you may know more than one NFL coaching staff, given the coaching staff here, but any NFL coaching staff would grade his first game as having 3 drops. You guys are being ridiculous. Don't be dramatic. I think that when you look at the kind of things that Cam Ward has at his disposal, yes, he has an uphill battle. Nobody is disputing this. Yes, he plays on the worst team in football. Nobody is disputing this. But there are still ways that he can improve. Now, part of that improvement, and this is where our Two Rivers for Take is going to come in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. What is the biggest positive about Cam Ward so far? However we phrased it, Robert, I don't think it's exactly that. What's the biggest positive from Cam Ward in 2 games? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Please let me know where you think the biggest positive of the rookie quarterback is through his first 2 games, and we will discuss at length together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Now, I mentioned that they're doing a non-perishable goods drive right now at Two Rivers Ford, and here's how you can help. You can do a little good for the less fortunate, and you can support a local business that is trying to do the exact same. Two Rivers Ford is executing a great thing here between today and the end of the month. So that's September the 30th. They are collecting non-perishable food items to benefit Second Harvest Food Bank and the Mount Juliet Help Center as they help to feed those who need it most in our community. It's real easy. What they're asking you to do, next time you're at the grocery store, pick up a couple extra cans of food, things like canned tuna, chicken, salmon, protein bars, low-sodium soups, chili, dried beans, or rice, boxes of cereal, anything that won't go bad over the course of the next couple of months can be stored and served over the next couple of months. That's what Two Rivers Ford is looking for here. You can drop it at the dealership, 76 Belinda Parkway in Mount Juliet. There's an F-150 that we're filling up the back of. It's the Fill-A-Ford Drive at Two Rivers Ford. F-150 sitting right in the lobby. It's a white platinum edition F-150, and we're loading up the back of it with canned and non-perishable items. You have until the end of the month to do it. It's all a part of Ford Motor Company's Global Caring Month and the world's largest dealership food drive. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Please help out if you can. It would be wonderful if you were able to do so to help support those in need. And there are so many people in need at this point in time. So, with all the different things that you have at your disposal or that you've seen Cam Ward do, what is the biggest positive that you're taking away? Alan Darby goes with my favorite answer so far. It's his poise. He is not perfect. None of these players on the field are perfect. He is better than most of the players on his roster right now. He's not the best player on the team. Jeff Simmons is still the best player on the team. Jeff Simmons is better at what he does than Cam Ward is currently at what he does. But it doesn't mean that he can't catch up. It doesn't mean that he can't make progress in the right direction. And one of those tools that's going to help him achieve however much he'll be able to achieve is the fact that it's not too big for him. Now, a part of that, as you talk about all the different things that Cam Ward has to be able to do, is that Cam Ward has to be given more freedom to decide what he likes and what he doesn't like. And that has been a part of the conversation this week, specifically today, with both Cam Ward and Brian Callahan. So Callahan was asked first. Callahan speaks before practice. Cam speaks after practice. Callahan was asked specifically about, all right, well, how do you kind of refine what it is that you guys are doing based on, based on what Cam Ward is, what you're learning about each other in real time, right? Because the games are incredibly valuable. Obviously, you want to win, but the value in the games is twofold here. One, the ability to get reps against real opponents and to grow and develop in real time. Two, to be able to learn more about what your quarterback does and doesn't like within the offense, and for him to give you feedback about, hey, thought I might like this in practice, did like this in practice. In the game, doesn't necessarily work the way that I want it to work, or I'm not as comfortable with it in game as I thought I might be. Let's make some adjustments here. Lucky for you, if you're a Titans fan, Cam Ward is very comfortable giving the coaching staff feedback.
I think he's done a really good job with that. He's not afraid to tell me something he doesn't like, which is really what I'm most concerned about. Most quarterbacks are going to tell you they like a lot of things, because they generally do, especially if it's just involved with throwing the ball. Of course, he's going to like those things. I'm really the most concerned, though, about things that he really doesn't like. That means more to me because as long as a quarterback's fine with whatever the concept is, they generally can make it work. It's the ones where they're not certain or they don't feel good about it, but maybe they're afraid to say something because they think I like it or it matters to me. It doesn't. If the quarterback doesn't like it, I'm not calling it, because they generally tend to not play well in those situations when they don't feel confident with the play. So he's been really good, and that's things we've worked on over the course of training camp. And as you're banking reps on plays, like I need to know, hey, how do you feel about this particular play? You don't like it, or you don't like the throw, or maybe the route's not what you're expecting. We won't do it, and that's the feedback I need from him, more so than what he does like. Because again, most guys like a lot of things, but it's the very specific things that you're not comfortable with that guys sometimes have a harder time of sharing, and he doesn't have that issue at all. He's very honest about what he likes and what he doesn't.
He needs. Sorry, Robert. That is one of my favorite answers that Brian Callahan has ever given. And to his credit, and listen, I give Brian Callahan a lot of shit, and they don't win games, and they deserve a lot of shit that they get because they don't win games, and a lot of the stuff that they do doesn't work. But what I appreciate about Brian Callahan is he's been very, very consistent on that specific point. They have been vocal before they drafted Cam Ward, after they drafted Cam Ward, that they're not going to try and shoehorn Cam Ward into an offense that doesn't work for him. That's the best kind of coach. Now, does that mean that Brian Callahan is the best kind of coach for Cam Ward? Not necessarily, but it's a huge thing in modern day football for a coach to not be so stubborn as to say, we're running my system, we're running the plays that I think are right, regardless of whether you like them or not. That is not what Brian Callahan is. That is what Ben Johnson is. And the Bears, I'm fascinated to see what happens in Chicago with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, because Ben Johnson is the opposite of that, it seems, based on the level of criticism that he is comfortable lobbing towards the players. I don't know how many of y'all saw his press conference today about believing that his players don't have championship caliber practice habits, completely ignoring the fact that he's responsible for setting the tone at practice. Coaches who don't realize that they're not as important as the players piss me off, and they should piss you off. Brian Callahan is not that, and not just because he's 3-16 as a Titans head coach, but because I think he's been around enough smart players to recognize, hey, it doesn't work if something works for Cam Ward, it may not work for Joe Burrow. If something works for Peyton Manning, it may not work for Matt Stafford, and vice versa. This is an important thing. It is one of the most important things for whomever is in charge of Cam Ward's future or is going to be tasked with helping Cam Ward into the future. That is a critical component of this. Don't force a square peg into a round hole. Now, fortunately for them, Cam is very comfortable giving them feedback. And Cam, I asked Cam Ward about that today. I'll in the press conference. We'll get to that here in just a second. Right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch, where you go for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. That's what TrueMath offers you. Just like a coach shouldn't force a quarterback to train the same way as every other quarterback he's coached, TrueMath Fitness will not force you to work out the same way that all of their other clients work out or all of their other members work out. They're going to make it specific to you, specific to your success, to make sure that you are in the best position to succeed. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. All right. So Cam Ward, I wasn't at Brian Callahan's press conference today because the radio show is on during Brian Callahan's Wednesday press conferences. The only press conferences I go to during the season are the ones immediately after the game because I'm at every game and I can't be at his press conferences every day during the week once the season starts and once the radio show is no longer out at Titans training camp. We do carry them live. I just don't get to ask questions during the week until we get to post game. So I am able to go to every Cam Ward press conference and every open locker room session after practice because of the way that the schedule's set up. So I was able to be at Cam Ward's practice or press conference after practice today. So having heard this answer by Brian Callahan, I wanted to know from Cam how that process goes from his standpoint.
It's been easier, especially with Callie giving me that authority, whether I like a player or I don't like a player, where I want to cut it throughout the week or if I want to leave it. But I think the best thing about it that, he's allowing me to every game just get more free and more free. He's opening up for me. He's making me see it from not only my point of view, but the whole perspective point of view, especially the play caller's point of view, his point of view. They also just continue to, put the ball in space, let my guys make plays.
What's the biggest key for you guys to extend drives this week, get into the end zone more than you have, and how can you influence the offense?
I would say where we're not the best at right now is probably once we hit midfield. It could be a load there. Or before we get to the red zone. I think that's the more we got to emphasize, bringing our best ball, bringing more urgency right there. Just got to continue to, try to gain explosives in the run game and the pass game.
Do you feel like your teammates are matching your mentality, your intensity? Is that something you have to teach them to do, or is that something you kind of just want to see them come to on their own time?
Everybody has their own mentality. As a team, we have our own mentality. But I think the biggest thing is, we grown men. We don't really need someone to motivate us every day. We know what we signed up for. We just got to, lock in 4 quarters. We try to do that this week, try to get our first win.
So that's Cam Ward speaking today at the press conference after practice, getting ready for the Colts this week. Talked to Jeffrey Simmons. Sounds like, by the way, Tavondre Sweat. I try not to put too much into what players say, especially early in the week, about whether or not they'll be able to go. But Sweat did seem like he was comfortable with the progress that he is going to be able to make this week. Again, let's see how he goes through the rest of the week of practice before we make any determinations. But it sounds like he is cautiously optimistic about playing on Sunday. Of course, they need him to play on Sunday because the Colts are going to try to run the ball right through the middle of their face masks at this point in time. It is a tough thing it's going to be a tough thing to stop. Going to be a tough thing to stop the Colts this week, which is crazy, given that Daniel Jones is not somebody who you've ever had to fear in a professional football game. In fact, he is usually to your advantage if you're the defense because he's been really bad. But Daniel Jones with the Colts is, at least through 2 games, has been super efficient. Not every team is going to be good all year long, right? The Packers look like a Super Bowl contender. The Packers are going to have a bad streak of games. The Colts are 2-0. They haven't punted yet in a game. That's not going to obviously last across 15 more games that the Colts will play. Every team has ebbs and flows to their season. If you're a Titans fan, your ebbs have been way more than your flows, basically in the last 3 years. But at some point, some of these teams are going to come back to earth. I don't want to say, why can't it be you against Indianapolis? Because I don't think you're going to beat the Colts on Sunday. I don't think you're good enough to beat the Colts on Sunday. But I do think that you are welcome to overachieve, because we have set the bar so miserably low for the Tennessee Titans that they are welcome to look like a professional football team, welcome to look like 31 other teams are capable of looking at teams. Even the Browns overachieve at certain points. The Titans have not done that under Brian Callahan. If Sunday is the first time that they do that, the Texans game last year, they did overachieve, but that's the one. You know what I'm saying? It's they are welcome to look like they belong in the same league as all these other football teams that are playing in the NFL. They don't very often. Sunday is a start. Show us something, right? Show us something. But this whole conversation about Brian Callahan and Cam Ward, the feedback, it's important because that's a place where you can start to see growth. All right, so we're executing plays in game. We've had all offseason to work on it. We've had all training camp to work on it. And we like what we've got when we're practicing. Then we get to a game and you say, I don't necessarily love this part of the game plan here, or this didn't work in game the same way that I thought it might work in game. So let's cut it. Brian Callahan and Cam Ward are both saying that Cam has a lot of say in how the offense runs because it's about making Cam Ward comfortable. That is the best. That's the highest compliment that I could pay to Brian Callahan so far, is that he is making sure that he is doing things in service of the quarterback. And as he should, it's his job. But there are plenty of criticisms that are fair of Brian Callahan. There are plenty of ways where he is underachieved by a mile as the Titans head coach. And I don't think that is, I don't think that's extreme to say. But what you have in Brian Callahan is somebody who does understand that this is the most important position and does understand that everything that they can do for Cam Ward is how he will be judged as far as whether he's good enough to keep this job or not. Jack Longley on YouTube says, so can Cam request on behalf of the fan base no more screens? I just don't think you can take – now, they're not a good screen team. They haven't been under Brian Callahan. And there is some level of commitment and practice that's required to being an effective and efficient screen team. But I do think in particular that if Cam's comfortable with it, that's fine. Cam can be comfortable with it and Calvin Ridley not make a play because Calvin Ridley doesn't know the play or does the wrong thing on a play and ends up blocking instead of, being ready to catch the pass like he wasn't in Denver. There are things here that could work there are things about the Titans offense that do seem to work. Like they do seem to put people in positions, and then the roster is still bad enough that they don't execute, right? They can't take deep shots down the field because they can't protect long enough. They can't run screens effectively or efficiently because they don't communicate well. And again, a lot of this is on the coaching staff to get it right. But I don't want to completely absolve the players of blame here because the players are making mistakes too. And again, Cam has made mistakes. Have they been the most costly mistakes? No, but the strip sacks, plural. Cam hasn't thrown an interception through 2 games, but he's got 2 strip sacks and the defense has recovered both. Those are mistakes that the quarterback can't make no matter how much pressure he's under. And I understand that he's under pressure. I don't want to say that there's a difference between excuses and explanations. Last year, Brian Callahan's explanation was, well, look at Will Levis. My God, who can win with this? Now that explanation has been removed. Why are you still losing? Okay, Callahan, it's on you. Cam Ward right now is receiving explanations. If Cam Ward continues to not make progress, then those will at some point from the fan base turn from explanations into excuses. That's just the cycle of these things, right, wrong, or indifferent. So I was pleased to hear that from Brian Callahan today. I was not surprised to hear that from Brian Callahan today because he's been very consistent on that front. And to his credit, that is the right way to approach these things. We'll see how much better Cam Ward can get as he gets more comfortable, as he gets to kind of pick and choose his menu items on what the Titans have on offer for him. Again, they have personnel limitations, so it's not all going to be perfect. But if Cam Ward makes progress, and this is a part of the progress that he makes, then that's a sign of moving in the right direction, which again is what all of this is about at this point in time. So a little bit of rising and falling. Whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports. Before we do that, I will remind you, by the way, whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports. You can say stock up Chimray DK. Chimray DK on the radio show tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we're going to have Jim on to talk about his success so far as being a weapon in the special teams side of things. Also, it's Miami versus Florida week. Cam Ward obviously played at Miami. Chimray DK obviously played at Florida. So we'll look forward to some good college football conversation with Chim. That is at 11:40 thereabouts tomorrow. So we'll, if you listen to the radio show, you can check it out live. If you don't listen to the radio show live, you can check out the podcast after the fact, where that will be somewhere between the second and the third hour. It'll be later in the show, but 11:40 right now is when we are scheduled to have Chimray DK on the radio show, and he's been good, right? He's been a plus to his credit. Cam Ward, Chimray DK has in fact been better at special teams than Cam Ward has been at quarterback, and that's not a shot at Cam. That's just like I'm impressed with Jim, and you should be too, because you've got at least one phase of the football team that actually exceeds expectations right now. That's special teams, and that matters. Any advantage you can get, you'll take. Rising and falling. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell this week in sports? Tell me your submissions, and I'll give you mine right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by Simon Says Nashville. Simon Says Nashville.com. They are here to help you dress better. You need to dress better. I've seen many of you in your profile pictures on YouTube. I'm not here to shame you, but I am here to tell you that you could afford to dress better. Simon Says Nashville is here to help you accomplish just that, and they are local. They are there to make sure that you get as many good options for your wardrobe as humanly possible. I love the stuff that they have. In fact, I'm going to pop in there this weekend in Wedgwood, Houston, where they're conveniently located. For me, it's very nice because my gym's right there. I can just walk down the hill on what street is that? It's not Pillow Street. I can't think of the name. Either way, it's Wedgwood, Houston. It's right there by Soho House, right there by by Iggy's, if you know. Iggy's Italian over there in Wedgwood, Houston. Really cool spot. Really great stuff. You'll look better. You'll feel better as a result. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. All right. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell this week in sports? Talk to me. Vanderbilt. Stock up. Vanderbilt has a legit football team. Vanderbilt is competing in the SEC at a high level. Vanderbilt is dominating their opponents so far. And I don't want to hear any bullshit about, well, South Carolina didn't have their starting quarterback. They were dominating South Carolina with Lenore Sellers in the game. They were dominating South Carolina without Lenore Sellers in the game. It's been awesome to watch. They played Georgia State at home this weekend. I've got to do Fox from 5 to 7, so I wouldn't be able to go for kickoff at Vandy against Georgia State, but it's a night game at Memorial Stadium, and I'm tempted to slide over to Vandy and catch at least some of that game. I haven't been to a Vandy game in a long, long time. I haven't had a reason to go to a Vandy game in a long, long time. But they're killing it. And, I hope Diego Pavia stays healthy, and I hope they give Tennessee a good game at the end of the year in rivalry week. I don't see why there's any reason why they can't beat Alabama and Texas the way that nobody thought they were going to beat Alabama and Texas, because Alabama and Texas don't look that good. Vanderbilt does. Vanderbilt stock up, buying all the Vandy stock if it's not already bought up. Incredibly impressed with Vanderbilt right now, and they deserve to be ranked higher than they are. The only reason that they're not is because they have a Vandy logo on their helmets and not an Ohio State, a Texas, or an Alabama logo on their helmets. So to their credit, good on Vandy. Keep it rolling. Thank God there is a good football team in this state. Stock up also, speaking of good football teams in this state, Joey Aguilar. I was at me and Robert and Lucas, we all went to the game in Knoxville on Saturday. We watched Georgia outlast Tennessee by a hair, by a field goal in overtime. It was an awesome game. I hate it for Tennessee fans because you were that close. You had it. You should have beaten Georgia, and it was an unfair spot. I mean, the kicker, I don't want to put it all on the kicker. There was a couple of reasons why you lost that game. The defense dealing without their starting quarterbacks. Josh Heupel got a little conservative at the end. Like, it's not enough to kill you, but it's enough of an accumulation that a team like Georgia will beat you. Stock up also, Gunnar Stockton, the Georgia quarterback, to his credit. He went into Neyland Stadium and diced him up. Awesome. To see the way that they were competing back and forth. Stock up Tennessee, stock up Gunnar Stockton, stock up Joey Aguilar, stock up Vandy. All of these things. Stock down Titans generally because of penalties. 23 penalties is disgusting. They lead the league in penalties ahead of Thursday Night Football tomorrow night. Stock down also Titans offensive line. They are paying way too much money for Kevin Zeitler and Dan Moore Jr. to suck, and they have sucked at this point in time. That is the penalties are the most disappointing thing because that's across the board, and it's just as simple as, hey, don't commit penalties. The offensive line situation, I get they're playing good fronts. You're allowed to play like a professional football player, and you're allowed to play with some pride. You're allowed to not get beat like a drum. Titans offensive line has been beat like a drum across the board. Also, Eric Alonso brings up a good one. Stock down Arch Manning, Texas. For all the stock that I'm buying in Vanderbilt, I'm selling as much Texas Arch Manning stock. Remember when some of you, and it's not specific to Eric, because I don't remember Eric's position on this or if Eric even had a position on this. But remember when some of you wanted to not draft Cam Ward this year so you could tank for Arch? Yeah, that's why you can't say dumb shit like that before football season has even begun, because you have no idea what these guys are going to look like. Spencer Rattler was a consensus number 1 overall pick until he got benched at Oklahoma because he was bad, and you need to let these things play out. It's really prisoner of the moment type stuff to say, oh, we can do better than Cam Ward. There's a Manning out there, except that Manning sucks. It's really bad. And maybe he's hurt, but they're saying publicly that he's not. So if that's the case, then Arch Manning's just bad at football right now. The other thing that I saw here that I disagree with, Lethal Latin 615 says, stock down Dabo crashing out to the media. I am on Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney's side. I think that the questions about the LSU game after LSU beat Florida the other night were stupid. And I say that as somebody who's asked stupid questions in press conferences before. The reporter going at Brian Kelly about the offense and the third down offense and the running of the football specifically, when they did enough to win the game, I thought was dumb. It was the first question of the press conference. Brian Kelly freaked out. Didn't blame Brian Kelly at all. He shouldn't have had to make a public apology. He did anyway, whatever. Dabo was different because Dabo's rant was 13 minutes, and it was the 13-minute rant was brought on by something that was completely unrelated to what Dabo was ranting about. Now, Clemson was national title favorites, and they're 1-2. They've lost to Brian Kelly and LSU. They've lost to Georgia Tech over the weekend. I don't think that Clemson is in a situation where they can do better than Dabo Swinney right now. I can't say that definitively because I don't know what young coaches are going to come on the scene. Alex Golish, at USF, probably Vols fans' nightmare is Alex Golish, their former offensive coordinator, taking the Florida job. If Billy Napier gets fired, that would be less than ideal. Dabo's not doing his job as well as he needs to do his job, though. So I do agree with that part. I do think that on aggregate, Dabo is right about the things that they have accomplished, but nobody cares about what you've accomplished. I mean, it does matter to an extent, but it doesn't buy you grace for the end of time. Just because you won 2 titles a handful of years ago does not mean that you get to grift off that for the rest of your career. And I know he's 55, and I know that he's got plenty of coaching left, so he better get his shit together because he's falling behind. And Clemson is falling behind as a result. So he can't act like he's untouchable, even though on aggregate, I agree with the point that he's trying to get across. I think he's frustrated and that it was a human moment. There's probably more stock up, stock down that we could do, but I think those are pretty good nominees. So we'll call it there. Radio show tomorrow. Nate Washington is on the radio show. Titans legend, Titans wide receiver. We'll talk to him about Cam and the offense, about things that he's seeing from the young rookie quarterback. I think that's the only guest on the radio show tomorrow, Robert, unless I'm missing somebody. I will double check here real quick, but I believe it's just Nate. Oh, Chimere DK. I forgot Chimere DK. Chimere DK also on the radio show, the rookie wide receiver / returner who is giving you a plus on special teams. So a couple of wide receivers hanging out with us tomorrow in Nate Washington, the former, and Chimere DK, the current. We'll look forward to having you guys with us from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. And if you can't listen live, check out the YouTube stream if you want. Oh, new episode of The Install tomorrow as well. Greg Cosell will cut that tomorrow at 8:30, and then Robert usually gets it up before the radio show to his credit. So you can also get Greg Cosell's film analysis on everything that you're seeing from Cam Ward and the Titans offense and defense to their credit tomorrow morning at about, let's call it 9:30. Have a great rest of your evening. See you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Go home.